everyone, Sam Ovens here, and welcome to this module called Understanding Thyself. And in this module, I'm going to show you how to understand your own psychology, your interests, your passions, and your behavior patterns, so that you can really understand yourself and the nature of yourself, which is quite a fascinating thing. And then once we understand that, we're going to look at your vision and mission that you've set. And then we're going to compare these two things together. We're going to compare yourself as you currently are and what it takes to achieve your vision and mission. And then we're going to identify the gaps in character that you have. And then we're going to design a new character that doesn't have these character gaps, that can achieve your vision and mission with ease. And then we're going to set our sights and task ourselves with becoming this character. And therefore, by doing that, achieving our vision and mission. So here's what we're going to cover. So we're going to start off with who are you? And understanding the nature of yourself. And then we're going to take a baseline of yourself. I'm going to explain what that is and why we need it. And then we're going to look at the three key pieces of your psychology and who you are. So the first one is your psychology and understanding your mental biases. And we're going to do some psychometric tests and things here. And then we're going to understand your interests and really understand and get to know your heart's desires and the things that you love and are drawn to. And then we're going to understand your behavior and your activity patterns. And then finally, we're going to define the new you capable of achieving your goals, and then we're going to become that version of you. So who are you? Understanding the nature of yourself. So most of your decisions happen subconsciously, without you consciously choosing them. And there's another you pulling the strings and directing your life. And until you meet this person and befriend them, you simply cannot win. And who am I? This is the question that we ask ourselves as we progress through life, and we start to build a collection of things we do and don't like, and things we're good and bad at, and this collection of things becomes our perceived self, like, oh, this is who I am, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. And mankind's mistake is believing that we are who we are, and we only have one static self that's unable to change. And what we forgot is that we choose ourself. We chose ourself. And we created who we have become. And everything we have in life is our own doing. And we can change ourselves to become whatever we want and achieve anything we want. And self-awareness is when you understand the nature of yourself, your emotions, your biases, your interests, your behavior patterns, your habits, strengths, weaknesses, blind spots, all of it. And how it became that way too. And without self-awareness, life will always just seem like fate. Or oh, this must have just been the plan for me. There's nothing I can do about it. It's just fate. That's what life seems like without self-awareness. With self-awareness, life, you've got the steering wheel. And that's why it's so important. And there's really 4 archetypes of self-awareness. And a lot of people are seekers. And these are people who don't know who they are yet, what they stand for, and how their teams see them, their teams see them. And as a result, they may feel stuck or frustrated with their performance. And then you've got introspectors who are clear on who they are, but they don't challenge their own views or search for blind spots. And then you've got pleasers. And they can be so focused on appearing a certain way to others that they could be overlooking what matters to them. So these people don't know what they want, and they don't know who they are, and they don't really please anyone, including themselves. So this is kind of the worst little quadrant to be in. These people please others, but not themselves. So this is better than that, but not much better. And these people please themselves, kinda, but they don't please others and they don't ever get out of their box. However, these aware people, they know who they are, what they want to accomplish, and seek out and value others' opinions. And this is where leaders begin to fully realize the true benefits of self-awareness. And this is, where you want to be. This is where you want to develop yourself. This is where the magic happens up here. And self-awareness is really about, these different things. Your personal values, and you want to make sure that they reflect like your life and your decisions and everything reflects your personal values. And you've got your self-concept, your term for how you perceive yourself, self-regulation, taking responsibility for your actions and choices, self-development, self-identity, and all of this kind of ties in to form like self-awareness. And this is what's so important to develop if you want to, get to the next level with your mindset and your business. So becoming self-aware. The day you decide you are more interested in being aware of your thoughts than you are in the thoughts themselves, that is the day you will find your way out. And you need to notice your patterns. And you're a complex interconnected cluster of atoms. And everything within that cluster is interconnected, and everything is driven through cause and effect. And thoughts and actions feed back on themselves in an attracting and a detracting loop. So, as you have a negative thought, you might have another negative thought, which might bring another one, and then you forgot why you originally had that negative thought in the first place, so you now perceive this actual very real threat, and you forgot why, and it just starts feeding upon itself. The same thing can happen in a positive way. You might feel confident in yourself just for no other reason other than you told yourself to. And then that might lead to you doing a strategy session and getting a client and then paying you money, and then you might forget how it all started and then actually believe, oh wow, I'm actually really good at this, I am confident, and then it just keeps feeding back on itself. These are like attracting and detracting like patterns that just keep forming in your mind all the time. And becoming self-aware is when, you're aware of these things and you can, kind of police your mind. And the key is to watch your thoughts because they become words. And then to watch your words because they become actions, and to watch your actions because they become habits, and to watch your habits because they become character, and watch your character because it becomes your destiny and your future. And this is probably my favorite quote on this topic. And it says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. It's by Carl Jung. And this is true, until people understand their unconscious self and, what's going on in their unconscious, it will rule their life. And, they'll just think like, it's totally out of my control. I don't have the steering wheel. This is just pre-planned for me. And this is why self-awareness is so important. So how do we get that self-awareness? So we want to start by taking a baseline of you, a baseline of yourself. And a baseline of yourself is a measurement of your psychology, character, interests, skills, habits, and behavior patterns as they currently exist. And we take a snapshot of you so that we can measure and compare any improvement. Because in order to measure anything, we need a baseline. And then anything that happens in the future, we can measure that again, and we're able to see an improvement or a detraction from the baseline. And so we've got a measuring stick we can use. Now, why do we need it? So imagine trying to improve your landing page conversion without metrics. And imagine trying to improve the profitability of your business without access to any of your numbers. And if this was the case, all efforts would be futile and chaotic. And creating change, So what gets measured gets done, and what gets fed back gets done well, and what gets rewarded gets repeated, and what gets repeated creates destiny. And this feedback loop is insanely powerful. And so it all starts by measuring something. And that's the baseline of you, baseline of yourself. And then through that measurement, we're able to get some feedback. And then we're able to iterate upon ourselves and measure it again and get more feedback. And then we're going to reward ourselves with the good behavior, and we're going to not reward ourselves for the bad behavior. And by doing this, we'll create, we're incentivizing ourselves, and we're going to create new habits, new characters, and, create our vision and mission. So how do we do it? So we use a combination of self-analysis, surveys, thought experiments, psychometric tests, and feedback from people who know us best. And the overall picture we get from these sources forms our baseline. And what we're really trying to understand is ourself as a system and our psychology. Because just like a machine, our brain and ourselves work in a similar way. And there's always inputs, processes, outputs, feedback in an environment, right? So some inputs might be different types of stimuli. So you might see things visually, smell them, you might hear them, you might taste or touch. These are ways that information can input into our system. And then these get passed through into our brain. And then our brain runs processes. It takes this information and it processes it. And what it's trying to do is, this means that, or this is good, this is bad, or this is similar to that. It's basically trying to run these different cognitive processes. And then it's spitting out an output. And it's saying to, feel this emotion, or take this action, or make this decision. And then there's feedback. And we're thinking, did that work as expected? Like, hey, we took in this input, we processed it, we took this output, we took this action. Did that go as we had planned? And if it did, then we should do more of this. If it didn't, let's do less of it. And you're also categorizing this as that and that as this, basically running all of these processes. So if you receive an input and you process it a particular way, and then you take a specific action, and it rewards you, like you feel a good emotion or something, that's feedback that then is attaching back to that input. And so next time you see that input, that is much stronger because it's now got feedback attached to it. So you're much more likely to take that. And this is how good habits and bad habits form. Bad habits typically form because you've gone through this loop lots of times. And like any system, we have our minds and ourselves have a overarching intent. And we have a massive intent for survival. And if you don't believe me, just see, how in the zone a human being will go when it comes to survival. So we have massive survival intent. But we also have other intent to achieve other goals. And we want to optimize all variables to achieve this goal. And what we're basically trying to do is, whatever our intent is, we're just trying to achieve that. And so we're trying to run all of these processes and receive all of this information, stimuli, and output all of this different action to basically get more of what our intent is and to get less of what isn't our intent. That's basically how our mind works. And it's also influenced by our environment, like the climate and the weather, people you're around, culture, beliefs, trends, all of these different things too. So it's a full system. And the processes that are run, this is our psychology, and we seek to understand this thing. We want to know how it takes this input, how it processes it, and how it outputs this action or emotion or decision. Because once we understand these things, once we can decode our own mind and our own self, then we are able to, change who we are. and improve ourselves. And here's a very simple example of how it works. So let's say we see a glass of water. We will see that through our eye, which is like a receptor that receives the waveforms of information that we can see in that water, and then that receptor passes the information along a sensory neuron into our brain. And then when that information hits our brain, it goes through a relay neuron. And that relay is kind of like a circuit board. It passes it down a tree through a different process. And then that goes to our motor neuron. And a motor neuron, tells us, like a muscle in our body or a group of muscles in our body, to respond. And in this case, it sees this, brain processes it, and then we respond by drinking the water. So we do this with everything. Like it might be a feeling, or we might see something, then we might have a feeling, and then that feeling might trigger, something else, right? And so everything in our brain is just inputs, processes, and outputs. And we're really trying to be an objective third-party observer of our own minds. The stimuli that comes in, and then we can't really see or understand the processes that are run, but we can see the input and the output. That is what we can see. And what we're trying to do is understand the inputs that come in, the outputs that come out, and then we can start to decode the relays and the processes that are running inside our brain, ask ourselves why, and then start to tweak around with these things and get them closer to where we would like them to be. So let's get inside your head and figure out the internal wiring, circuit defaults, synapse firing sequences, patterns, and loops. Let's see how this thing works. So we'll start with psychology and understanding your mental biases. So your psychology is the mental process you use to compute stimuli, inputs into behavioral and emotional outputs, and the synapse firing process that happens in your brain when you think consciously and unconsciously. Because remember that your brain is running processes unconsciously. And if you don't believe me, well then try stop your heart from beating right now. You can't. It's not a conscious process, but it is doing it, so it is running in there. And then mental biases. So trying to understand every process in your brain is impossible. And instead we focus on the biases you have towards things. And by understanding biases, we can understand your psychology and strengths and weaknesses. And mental inertia. So your psychology will continue to evolve towards your biases until it's acted on by an outside force. So it's really important to understand your mental biases and your psychology, because these things are massive attractors inside your brain and detractors, and things are going to continue to go towards or away from these particular things, regardless of what you do, until you're made aware of it and you actually try to change things. So it's of critical importance to really understand your mental biases and what goes on inside. And basically how this happens is, you might have these things that you have biases towards, and they just act like these attractor patterns, and it just pulls, and it just makes all of this stuff gravitate towards it. So it might be thoughts, you start having one thought about this thing, and then you start thinking about it all the time. It might be feelings, you start having a small feeling towards it, and that feeling just starts to just pull gravitationally and, build up to this big thing. And when something pulls towards something, it pulls, away from something else. So, quite often when a strength starts to develop, it comes at a weakness of something else. And this is what happens in our minds. And how we uncover these biases is through psychometric testing. And psychometric tests are a standard and scientific method used to measure your mental capabilities and behavioral style. And psychometric tests are designed to measure candidates' personalities, biases, defaults, etc. And we use 4 main tests to form a psychological view of a person. And they are, number 1, Myers-Briggs. This is my favorite one. And this test shows you your personality biases using 4 letters and 16 possible combinations. And this one is free. You can do it completely free. And the link is on the screen, consulting.com/MBTI. And I'll open it up so you can see what it looks like. So you go through this test, answer these, and it will answer the questions and it will give you your answer. And you've got to do this one. It is really, really, really powerful, and it will take less than 12 minutes and it's free. So I want you to do that one. And then I want you to do the DISC assessment. And this test shows your attitude biases. So, the things that you have attitude towards. And this one is free as well. And you can go to consulting.com/DISC, consulting.com/DISC. And this one, you just go through here and you just answer all of these questions. Thumb up, thumb down, and it's free too. And then the team dimensions profile. So this test shows you your working biases. So the things typically in the workplace or in a working environment that you're going to have a bias towards or away from. And this test is $43 and it's still 100% worth it. I recommend doing all of these. It'll make you so much more money than you invest in it because this is self-awareness, which is everything. And this one can be found at consulting.com/TDP. And it looks like this. And when you pull this one up, you can view a sample of what the results look like. So you can get a rough idea of what this will show you. So you can see whether somebody is, a creator, an advancer, or a refiner, an executor, or a flexor. And it explains all of these different things. And it shows you, where they're positioned. So some people really like interaction, some people like analysis, some people like creating, some people like, being grounded on execution for reality. And it will show you where you sit in here. And to do this assessment, you just scroll down to the bottom and you click add to cart and you're just buying one of these for $43. And then there's another one I like called Workplace Personality Inventory. And this test shows you your motivation biases. And it's $25, completely worth it. And you can get it by going to consulting.com/WPI. And this one, I'll open up a sample report here. This one shows you what your drivers for performance are. So, for example, you could be extremely driven by achievement or social influence or interpersonal or self-adjustment, conscientiousness or practical intelligence. And you can really just understand a person by looking at these things. And then it goes into, the details as well. Now, all of these tests I highly recommend doing. If you want to do the Workplace Personality Inventory test, it's a little bit more of a pain in the ass to actually do it. So what you do is you just, where it says want to purchase this test, click register now. Then click the United States registration. And then follow the registration process and complete it. And then they might have to approve your account. It still doesn't, they don't charge you anything. You don't need to be a massive company or anything. And then they'll approve your account. And then once they've approved your account, you can log in and you can purchase the Workplace Personality Inventory assessment and get your results. I highly recommend doing all of them. The first 2 are free. The third one is $43, but it's still easy to do. And the fourth one's $25, and it's a little bit more pain in the ass to actually do it, but it's highly worth doing all of them. And not only do you want to do these tests, but you also want to read about your results. You'll get given multiple pages explaining your results, and you want to take the time to really read through these things and understand them, because it'll be an awakening experience for you, and it will really be helping you gain some self-awareness. So to help you complete these cheat sheets, to help you complete these psychometric tests, I've provided you with some cheat sheets. And the first cheat sheet just shows you all 4 psychometric tests and the URLs to access them. So it's just called Psychometric Tests, and it's a PDF available for download beneath this video in the resources section. And here you can see, the main 4, Myers-Briggs, DISC, 10 Dimensions, Profile, and Workplace Personality Inventory, the links for all of them, the prices and things, and I recommend going through and doing all of them now. And make sure you do all of them yourself first and save the reports and everything. And then you can see a sample report, and I've actually included my exact reports. So if you click here, you can see that my Myers-Briggs is INTJ, and here it explains all about the INTJ. And what's really interesting is this stuff's fascinating to read about, and it talks about your strengths, it talks about your weaknesses, and you really want to take a moment to understand all of these things. And for DISC, I included my one as well, so you can compare it to that and see. It's really fun getting these test results back and then comparing them to other people. So that's why I included mine there, because there is no right or wrong answer. Some people are way better at some things than others, and all strengths come with weaknesses. So, I'm extremely good at some things, but that kind of costs me in other areas. And, other people would be extremely good in things that I'm weak in, but that would cost them in the areas where I'm strong. And that's kind of how it works. And for DISC, you can see my profile here, DISC, and where I stand on this thing, and it explains it. And then Team Dimensions profile. You can see that my style is a refiner. And you can see, where I sit on the scale of things. And then the workplace personality inventory. And here you can see that, my main drivers is achievement, pretty much maxed out on that, have very little social influence. I am extremely weak on interpersonal skills, and not very conscientious either, but very high on practical intelligence. So you can see that a lot of the time, these big spikes come with these big dips. Now, it doesn't have to be that way. I can actually improve these things, but no one will ever get all of these things to the top. And typically, if you're strong here, you'll be a bit weaker there, but the key is not to be too weak in these areas, and you need some strengths. And it also shows you it has like a lie detector, this test, which is pretty funny. And so if this is high, then you probably haven't answered honestly. And yeah, you can basically flick through here, and after you've done it, and compare yours to mine, and start to understand yourself and the nature of yourself. So I want you to make sure you pause the video and complete all of those tests right now. Save those reports to your computer. Upload them to the action items section of this week. Put them in your Google Drive. It's very important to keep these files on hand. Now let's talk about interests and understanding your heart's desires. So your interests are feelings or emotions that cause attention to focus on an object, event, or process. And you're emotionally drawn to your interests, like a magnet attracting a metal object. And it's a love thing. It's love, not logic. So interests can't be controlled by logic and thought. It's a visceral emotion that comes from your limbic system. And the limbic system is the part of your brain that controls fear, pleasure, anger, hunger, sex, dominance, offspring, caring for them, controls all of these instinctual things. And your limbic system doesn't have like conscious thought that you're aware of. It's unconscious. So, if your limbic system is, really attracted to this thing because it gets a lot of pleasure from it, then it's going to override all logic. And even if it makes no sense to logically pursue this thing, you will. And so that's why a lot of people aren't actually aware of their interests, and they don't know what they're interested in, because they are trying to think about what they are logically, rationally interested in, and they're trying to think a feeling. And you cannot think a feeling. Feelings are separate and distinct and totally separate from thoughts. And so it's a really fascinating experience to start understanding what you're interested in. And interests are extremely powerful. And your interests are more powerful than your cognitive abilities, because you can learn cognitive abilities if you're interested in something. And interest is what powers all major successful people. Without interest, nothing else will happen. Because when you're interested in something, it's what gives you that drive and that motivation and that relentless attitude that's never going to give in ever. And no matter what obstacle comes in your way, you're going to learn it and master it. And when you have that, you're unstoppable. So discovering your interests. So we're not always aware of our interests because it's not the conscious logical part of the brain that's interested. And this worksheet shows you how to discover your actual interests. So it's available for download beneath this video in the resources section, and it's called Discovering Your Interests. And it is a simple PDF. And it says, interests are feelings or emotions that cause attention to focus on an object, event, or process. You're emotionally drawn to your interest like a magnet attracting a metal object. And this worksheet helps you ask the right questions to uncover actually what you love. So these are fascinating questions to ask yourself. So what's your favorite movie of all time? Write it down. And then who is the main character from that movie? And chances are you like that movie because you see yourself most like the main character. And if you Google search for the main character, let's call that X character analysis, and learn more about this character, that you want to do that, and it will be fascinating to look at how similar these things are. And then you want to write your findings below. So what did you learn from studying that main character? What characteristics did they have? What were their personalities like? And then you want to go to your YouTube viewing history and scroll through the videos you've been watching. And you want to ask yourself, what general trend and pattern do you see here? Like, is there a trend between the videos you're watching? Write them down. State your findings. And then you want to ask your girlfriend, wife, or best friend, basically the person who knows you the most and spends the most time with you, what things you just don't shut up about. And they will know this better than you know it yourself. And you want to ask them and state your findings below. And then what books have you read? And you want to look at your collection and sort the books you've read from cover to cover. And you want to separate the books you've read cover to cover from the other books that you've just got sitting there or maybe started and didn't finish. And when you're looking at the ones that you've finished cover to cover, ask yourself what trend and pattern these have in common, and then state your findings. And then this one is another fascinating one. Where does your money go? So look at your bank statements for the past 30, 60, 90 days and see what you've been spending money on. And what general pattern and trend do you see here? And state your findings below. because where the money flows will give us a huge signal about your interest. And where your attention goes, that's like your books. You know, where the books you've read, you've been thirsty to learn more about something. That's like where what you're learning about is probably what you're interested in. Where your money goes, what's what you're interested in. What you talk about repeatedly to people who know you, you're interested in it. What videos you watch on YouTube, you're interested in it. And then your favorite movie, you see yourself like that character. And so now you want to see what that character is like to give us hints about what you are like. And these are fascinating gateways and windows into your own psyche. And you might be thinking, Sam, but, you know, why don't I just answer what I'm interested in? Why do I have to do this? And the reason why is because interest is quite often unconscious. It's quite often a limbic system response or need. And it's happening, you know, without you consciously being aware of it. And hence, you know, all you can do is be consciously aware of what you're consciously aware of. And so we're not able to access that library of information by using that cognitive function. So to get around that inherent, like, issue in your brain, we just have to look at these ways to get around it. And then that gives us clues as to what's in there so we can seek to understand the nature of our unconscious. And I want you to complete that worksheet, complete it fully, save it to your Google Drive, upload it to our action items storage system. Now let's talk about behavior and understanding your activity patterns. So your behavior is the way you act in response to a particular situation or stimulus. And because behavior is an output response from an input, it displays patterns of cause and effect. And behavior typically serves one of two functions. The first one is to obtain, and the second one is to escape. So behavior is either get closer to or get away from. And obtaining is to get something like attention, objects, sensory regulation. And escaping is to get out and away from something like a task, embarrassment, people, etc. And understanding patterns. So to understand your behavioral patterns, you want to look at your actions over time and ask yourself what you are trying to obtain or escape. And this is very interesting. It's fascinating. When you do things you don't want to do and then analyze those. Because, you know, there's a lot of things that we want to do to achieve our goals. Like we're like, oh, we want to build this big business, make all of this money, help all of these people and really change the world for the better. And you're like, okay, that's what I want, cool. Then you're like, all right, now I have to take these actions and do this work. But then somehow you don't feel like you should be doing that work. And your feeling inhibits you from doing the work you know you need to do to save the world and make money and all of that. And you end up doing something stupid, like being on Facebook and just liking pixels of which contain no meaning and feeling really good about that. And then later on, in hindsight, actually feeling really guilty about that because it actually doesn't make any sense. This is what's fascinating about human behavior. Because a lot of us think, oh yeah, we're fully in control of ourselves. Yet we know we want to achieve our vision and mission. And we know we need to do this work to achieve our vision and mission. However, some force, some magical force just pulls us towards the thing that isn't that. And we wonder why. So, to understand behavior patterns, I've included a cheat sheet. Oh, sorry, not a cheat sheet, a worksheet beneath this video in the resources section called Understanding Behavior Patterns. And to understand why you behave the way you do, we need to understand what you're trying to get closer to and what you're trying to escape from. And this worksheet shows you how to do it. So it's a PDF available for download in the resources section beneath this video. And it asks questions like this. What things do you want to do but struggle to actually do? And I'm sure you've got a lot of these. Maybe it's your accounting, maybe it's your taxes, maybe it's sorting out financial things, maybe it's, having harsh conversations with some people that need to be spoken to. What things do you want to do but you struggle to actually do them? And then what things do you avoid and cringe at when they're in your calendar? And what things do you really dislike doing and grind your teeth at and only do them because you absolutely have to do them? And what things end up distracting you and taking you off task? And what things excite you that most other people would dislike and not find exciting at all? And what things do you do repeatedly that you know you shouldn't do and feel guilty for doing? And you want to look at the things you're drawn towards, and you want to see these things. What are the things you're drawn towards from your answers above? And then ask yourself, what patterns and trends do you see? Now, you might not be drawn to them in their actual physical, they might not have physical similarities to each other, but they might have emotional similarities. So don't just look at the atomic makeup of the thing. Look at your response to that thing and whether there's similarities and patterns with your response, your emotional response, when you come in contact or away from that thing. And this will be very, very, very fascinating and revealing and eye-opening for you. And then look at all the things that you're escaping from your above answers, and then ask yourself, what patterns and trends do you see? What emotions do these things provide and have in common? Because most likely what you're being drawn towards are things that make you feel good, and what you're being what you're trying to get away from are things that don't make you feel good. And so it's most probably emotion. It's not really logic, because this is a limbic system response that's overriding all logic, conscious thought. And so this is why it's so key to understand these things. And this is when we're really starting to become self-aware. So defining and then becoming the new you. So bringing it all together. So at this point, you should have defined your vision, mission, and principles, as well as understood the nature of yourself and who you are psychologically at this given moment. And the current you. So you want to look at your current psychology, interests, and behavior patterns and ask yourself if you're capable of achieving your vision and mission as the person that you are right now. And then what you'll find is that, of course, you're not. And this is the character gap. And to achieve your vision and mission, you need to change yourself, because who you are right now can only achieve what you have achieved right now. And if you have right now all that you want and all that you want to achieve, then you would not have a vision and a mission, because, the nature of a vision and mission is something you don't have. So there's going to be a gap. And if you want more, then you've got to personally become more. You've got to grow as a person. And the new you. So to achieve our vision and mission, we need to design and then grow into a new character capable of achieving these things with ease. And then instead of trying to get our goals, we try to become that character. So it's very simple. Instead of, most people try to stay as they are. They keep their characteristics, habits, behavior, and all of that. And then they just form this vision and mission and these goals they want. And then what they do is they just try to go after those things and get them. But then they fail, because you don't, how do you get something? You get something from actions. How do you take actions? Well, it's your decisions. And so, if you don't change who you are, then you won't change your decisions, and then you won't change your actions, and then your actions won't get you the thing that you want. So this is why we have to create a new you, and then we focus on becoming the person who achieves those things, not trying to achieve those things themselves. We work indirectly and follow an oblique path. And to figure out who we need to become, we've got a worksheet called the New Character Worksheet. And to define the new you capable of achieving your dreams with ease, you want to complete this worksheet. And it's available for download beneath this video in the resources section, and it's called New Character Worksheet. So how would you describe the new version of you necessary to effortlessly achieve all of your dreams and goals? And try to describe this character in 3 sentences or less. And as you do this, you're wanting to look back on your vision and mission and principles from Module 1 in this week. So look at your vision, your mission, and your principles. Look at these things. This is what you want. Who do you need to become to do this? Define this character. What are they like? And what skills and strengths does this new character need to have in order to effortlessly execute on your dream and achieve it with ease? And then what strengths does this new character have that your current one does not? And what weaknesses is this new character free of that your current one possesses? And what good habits does this new character have that your current one does not? What bad habits is this character free of that your current one possesses? And what fears is this new character free of that your current one possesses? And how does this new character present him or herself? What does he or she look like? What judgments is this new character free of that the current one possesses? What stories about the past is this new character free of that the current one possesses? What traits does this new character have? Example, driven, powerful, smart, classy, or procrastinates, lazy, scrappy, shy. And describe what the average day looks like for this new character when he or she is executing and taking massive action to achieve his or her goals. And describe the things the new character loves doing and has an appetite for that the current character hates and avoids at all costs. And how would other people gossip and talk about this new character in a cafe? So, answer all of these questions. Take the time to do it. And this is very, very powerful and important stuff. This is designing the new future version of you. And then there's something else we want to use. And it's called the Alchemy of Self Workbook. And if you've already gone through Consulting Accelerator, you'll be very familiar with this. And it's basically the exact same workbook and process and everything that we use from Consulting Accelerator. But we just do it again in UpLevel, pretty much the same way, but slightly different. We're designing a new version of us in UpLevel because, who we became through Accelerator is not who we'll become from UpLevel. And this workbook helps you detail your vision, mission, principles, goals, and the character you need to become to achieve it all. So it's available for download beneath this video in the resources section. And there's a Keynote file and a PowerPoint file. So if you use a Mac, use Keynote. If you use a PC or Microsoft PowerPoint, then use the PPT version. And so how this thing works is you can print this thing out after you can first of all you edit this thing, and then when you've got it all perfected, you print it out, and then you can put it inside this Alchemy of Self workbook that we send to you. So we'll be sending you one of these in the mail. If you bought UpLevel, then we'll be sending you one of these, and if you bought Accelerator, we will have already sent you one of these. And it's just an empty folder, and it looks identical to this. And then you put inside it your printed out Alchemy of Self pages, And then you can refer to this thing every morning and every night to understand who you're becoming and what your goals and vision, mission, and principles are. It's basically a way to repeatedly and systematically and reliably brainwash ourselves for the better good for us and for everyone. So we're basically willingly and consciously brainwashing ourselves. That is what we're doing. But the beauty of brainwashing yourself is that you get to choose what to put in there. We're not getting brainwashed by someone else without knowing. That might not be good. But brainwashing ourselves, consciously designing it, that is good. So, how does it work? So there's just a cover page here that just has some instructions. Keep this journal on hand at all times. Read it in the morning and then read it multiple times during the day and then read it again at night. We're basically trying to just use repetition to drum it into our minds. And then there's a page that has some important things to remember that you can read through. And these are some really good reminders. Because, a lot of the time we can get emotional and frustrated and all of this, and these are really good reminders just to snap us out of it. And we also have our daily ritual that we follow. And we have, like, first thing in the morning, as soon as we wake up, we read this. When we look at our vision board, we read our affirmations, we listen to our affirmations, and we do all of this. And then we're able to track our actions and our daily performance. Because we want to track this stuff to make sure we're doing it consistently every day. We want to make sure that we're doing exercise, we're waking up at the same time, going to bed at the same time, getting a consistent amount of sleep, and that we're doing our mindset. We want to make sure we're doing this for at least 30 days straight. And what I've found is it takes about 31 days to really form a habit with this stuff. So you want to stick to it and hold on like hell and get it done for at least 30 days, and then the friction starts to dissipate and inertia and momentum begin to kick in. And then on this page, you can just kind of put some words towards, your character and your identity that you want to become. So this was one I did a while ago, and I just put billionaire, reformer, revolutionary, contrarian, title, icon, god, genius, philosopher. I put these different words in, and then I put in some different images that I liked and thought were cool. And you're basically just trying to create like a kind of vision board here, and then put some words towards, who you want to become. And then, I put some different images of my legacy to date. And you can do that too. It's just to understand the journey and where you've been. And then you've got, the Sam Ovens story, or your story. You would put your own name in here. And you can kind of show the different milestones that you've come along. And then you'll also have, the milestones that are ahead of you. And what's powerful when you do this is you get to see these things that get you motivated and inspire you to take action and do things, and get you in the right mood. Then we look at where we've already been and some key milestones and achievements we've already accomplished. Because sometimes we forget these things. And so this reminds us, and it gets us fired up. And then we see our story and the major milestones sequentially unfolding over time. And then we see the next few that we've got ahead of us. And we're like, yep, I know what I need to do next. That's it. And it's a really powerful thing to do. And then we have the manifesto. So you would write, the Joe Bloggs manifesto. Who is Joe Bloggs? You'd put in a description about yourself and what you want and all of that. And then we put in, your identity. So character traits, body type and style, achievements, mentors, branding. And then we put in goals. And you could put in different goals like accumulated wealth goals, business goals, health and fitness goals, personal and behavioral goals, and unquestionable standards. And then we've got some affirmations that you can have. And affirmations are things that you say so that you can repetitively build up beliefs inside your brain. So, you can tell yourself that you always think and act today, and this would help you think and act today. And it seems like, how does this work if we just keep repeating this thing to ourselves? Honestly, that's how everything works. Like, we like what we've been exposed to a lot. And so why do we like our parents? And, why do our parents like us? There's attachments here. And a lot of these things are just from being familiarized to them and having positive emotions attached to familiar sightings of these objects. And so the same thing can be done with anything. You just need to say something and attach that object to a positive emotion and do it repetitively and relentlessly until you have completely mind-washed yourself about anything you want to believe. And the key is to, make yourself confident, but also, a good person. And the key is to brainwash yourself and improve yourself and become the new version of yourself that is required to achieve these goals and your vision and your mission and uphold your principles. And so there's a few pages of affirmations. But yeah, I won't go into this one in huge detail because we covered it in Consulting Accelerator. And if you haven't done the Consulting Accelerator Mindset Training, I highly recommend you do that. It's in week 2 of Accelerator, which you'll have access to because you're an up level. And I definitely recommend taking the time to complete your Alchemy of Self workbook and then read over it every morning and every night. And within this workbook, you can also insert your vision, mission, and principles that you will have completed in Module 1 of this week's Mindset Training. So once you've done that, save it to your computer, upload it to Google Drive, upload it to the action items storage place for this week's training, and then also print it out. Make sure you print it and put it inside your Alchemy of Self physical workbook that we will have shipped to you. And if we haven't shipped it to you yet, then you should still print it out and staple it and just read it every morning and every night. Honestly, it will change your life. So your action items. Complete all 4 psychometric tests and then save your reports with your results. Save it to your computer, put it into Google Drive, put it into our action item center, and then make sure you read your results and your reports and learn about yourself. Start developing some self-awareness. And then complete the Discover Your Interests worksheet. So complete that worksheet and learn about, what you actually are interested in. And then complete the Understanding Behavior Patterns worksheet. And start to understand, your behavior patterns and what emotions you're drawn towards and what emotions you're drawn away from. And complete both those worksheets, save them to Drive, save them to our Action Item Center. And then complete the Alchemy of Self workbook with your new character. And to do that, you're going to want to complete the new character worksheet first. So you want to save that one, upload it to Drive and everything, and then complete your Alchemy of Self workbook with your new character, print it out, and also put your vision, mission, and principles from the first module in this week's training in there too. So there's quite a lot of action items and quite a lot of work and quite a lot of self-discovery that's going on in this module. And it is so important. This stuff might seem like, oh, this isn't making money. This isn't touching Facebook ads. Seriously, this is the stuff that separates the winners from the losers. This is the stuff that separates the great ones from the ones that achieve something but no one ever really cares because it's just semi-success. This is what separates the big successes that change the world from just the kind of nothing successes. So make sure you get it done. And now that you know your mission and who you need to become to achieve your mission, it's time to become that person and get the job done. So let's get to work.